And so today, to help us channel our desire for welcoming the stranger, I've invited Ben Ogden. He is the director of Welcome In, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about his experience welcoming the stranger in our community. Don't want you to fall off there. Oh, and you need this thing. There you go. So Ben has lots of experience welcoming strangers. Tell us about what Welcome In is and what work they do.
I want to, good morning, thank you for having me here. I want to point out really quickly how many times we can say a word and not really think about the importance of the word. I've been with Welcome In for 3 years now. Prior to that, I worked with the street homeless in Detroit for over 12 years. And when Welcome In hired me, back then, Pastor Judson was on the board, and he made an awesome decision to bring me on. I thought, Welcome In, I-N-N, how clever is that? That's a cute, clever name. But it was literally today, as I was in early worship, and then now reaffirmed, how important that phrase is, welcome in. It is more than just a clever play. It is more than just a cute logo. It is the foundation of what we do. And what Welcome In is a low-barrier day center that welcomes in the lost and discarded members of our community. We are the only low-barrier homeless shelter in South Oakland County. So basically anything south of Pontiac, before you get to the Detroit border, we are the only program that reaches out to provide care and services to adult men and women struggling with mental health issues, chronic homelessness, pervasive substance abuse or dependency issues. And we have been doing it since 2003. A very quick bit of history as to how we came to be is in the mid to late 90s, in the wintertime, there were two, for those of us who are older, I remember the Andy Griffith show, and there was a character named Otis. He was the town drunk. And he was jovial, and he would come into the jail and just let himself in and take a nap and sleep it off and then leave in the morning. Well, we had two men like that in the mid to late 90s, and sadly at that time, they were not able to get access to any of the area shelters that were being funded by the county, and both of them expired one winter. In response to that, some area churches in the Royal Oak area decided to open an emergency nighttime shelter. And as they did that, that created a draw of homeless people to an area that had never had to deal with welcoming in that many people. But because they offered a day school, and because some of their partners offered nurseries, they couldn't provide that care during the day, and the guests that were being drawn to them for nighttime safety were essentially out on the streets from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day of the week throughout the wintertime. Well, that was good for nobody. It wasn't good for the guests who were being asked to come and stay. It wasn't good for the community who were suddenly inundated with the guests that didn't know where to go or what to do. It wasn't good for the police that back then didn't have the level of training to deal with the problems that we deal with in today's times. So a lot of church members and community members got together and said, we need to create a solution. We need to provide a place of kindness and of care. And in 2002, they began formulating, and then in 2003, they started the first season of Welcome In. And what we do today is we work to continue to coordinate those overnight churches. They still exist, though they predated us. We go and pick up all of our guests via bus every morning, so that way those with daycares and nurseries can operate. We take them currently to Covenant Presbyterian Church, where we provide them 3 meals a day. We provide them medical care, housing assistance, hygiene care, a clothing closet, a cadre of services. Last season, from December to March, we served over 10,000 meals. Now again, we do this without county funding. We do this because it's to be done. We do this because to the least of my brothers and sisters, you also do for me. And we continue to this day, now going into our 16th year coming up, even though we're not there yet, winter is coming, to offer the kindness and community to people who more often than not are discarded. Though not Matthew, and I think that is one of my favorite quotes, having worked with the homeless through Presbyterian churches now for 16 years, there is a quote that the tail end of it is, the poverty of being unwanted, unloved, and uncared for, forgotten by everybody, is a greater poverty and a greater hunger than simply having nothing to eat. And so it goes back to the name Welcome In. Again, what I thought was just a clever name. We are that place that provides care and love and kindness with food and all of these other great things for people that have been lost or forgotten by nearly everybody.
So you talk about all the great things. Will you share a story of somebody who's taken advantage or like been able to use all those great things that you offer to get them onto a better footing?
Sure. In 16 years of doing this, we learned that not everybody on any given day are making amazing, awesome choices. And not everybody who struggles with homelessness are being amazing, awesome people. But my understanding is my job is not to judge them, my job is to love them. And so a lot of what Welcome In does is by being low barrier, and that means that as long as you're not a physical threat, you can come in. If you've been drinking, you can come in. If you're dealing with a mental health issue, you can come in. You are welcome. And when we deal with 65 to 100 guests a day, 24 hours a day, we sometimes deal with conflict, but we do that because some of the people that are struggling are amazing, and some of the people that are struggling are awesome. And you have to welcome everyone to find those who are ready to find a better way. And in 16 years of doing this, I've got many great stories, but this season that we just recently concluded is one of my favorites, and it is about a woman named Melissa. And Melissa is a woman in her mid-40s. She was born deaf. She was provided cochlear implants when she was a child. Those are the implants that they put behind your ears. But Melissa also has a pretty pervasive learning disability. So her parents, who were kind and loving parents, provided all the care that she needed through her entire life. She had to do nothing for herself, and they shepherded her very safely into her mid-40s, but sadly her parents fell ill, and within several months they both passed. Well, Melissa, who never learned sign language, never learned how to read lips, didn't even know where her parents got her batteries for her implants, suddenly found herself being evicted from the family home, and she fell into homelessness the week before we opened last season. Now imagine a deaf woman with a learning disability with no ability to hear, with an income, falling into a place of service, not service in our sense of service, but service of provision of services, that was not founded for the importance of kindness and welcoming. In my opinion, after 16 years, she would have quickly become a victim of some inappropriate actions or behaviors. Fortunately, she came to us. And because we began with the purpose and the point of kindness and care, we directly worked with her very quickly at a much slower pace, writing out everything we would say every day until we could find out ways to get her implants repaired, until we could connect her to housing. Well, once we got her connected to housing and she was able to qualify for that, she was put into an apartment out in Waterford because the housing in Oakland County tends to put people where there's availability. But she didn't know how to use a bus. She didn't know how to read a bus schedule. Who in here knows how to read a bus schedule? She didn't know where to get a bus schedule, so we then worked with her on that. We then connected her to people that could work with her and interpret and teach her some basics of sign language. But then when we went and checked on her, we found that she had an apartment and she had a bus schedule, but it was an empty apartment. She was literally sleeping on a floor in a town she'd never been to, trying to find buses she had never heard of. And we continued to work with her and learned the bus routes and took her to furniture banks and helped her furnish her apartment. And our case manager still to this day works with her on budgeting and coupon cutting and menu planning. And these are all these things that her parents loved her so much that they didn't want her to have to worry. But sadly, they disabled her from being able to do it as she got older and when the time came. And the point is now, as we exist today, she is in independent living. She has qualified and receives what is called permanent supportive housing, which means that the state agrees that she can take care of herself, but she will need some help. So she is safe. But not only is she safe, she's starting to thrive. And if we didn't exist, if we didn't welcome 65 to 100 people a day, again, not all of them awesome, to afford a place for Melissa to go where she could feel safe, where she could be welcomed, where she could trust that we would care enough, then I don't think she would be with us today. And so after 16 years, it took me almost 16 years to find my favorite story, just like it took me 3 years to realize that Welcome In is a pretty awesome name beyond just being clever. But that says that we can learn new every day. We are given a chance to realize and see something in a different light. No matter how many times we looked at it before, we just need to look at it once the right way to see the way it's to be done. So I would say Melissa's our favorite success story.
Yes. So those of us who are feeling like we want to help and want to be welcoming, how can we get involved in welcoming strangers?
Sure. So what I always recommend, certainly first off, and we'll get the terrible thing out of the way, is a program that exists on the kindness of churches like you. And again, I believe we're a great program. I wouldn't be here if we weren't. I know that your pastors believe we're a great program. They wouldn't have sat on or currently sit on our board if they didn't. And because we receive no county funding, money is always needed, but set that aside. That's an easy one. What I want people to always do is determine an ideology when it comes to your opinion about homelessness. You either believe in the need to help, you believe that these folks are lost and broken, and then find a way that you can comfortably do so. As Pastor Bethany had referenced, she doesn't want to have to think about whether or not giving money to someone was a good or bad decision. According to God, helping is a good decision. But if you're not prepared to deal with that, find a program, whether it's ours or another, and I can tell you of other programs that do good work. I'll be here at coffee hour to talk about it, but decide if you want to help, step one. Decide how you're comfortable helping, step two, so that way you don't have to spend 1 minute guessing if that was time or money well spent. Step three, get involved. And we are volunteer driven. We operate with 4 staff members, over 65 guests a day, 12 hours a day with only 4 of us, and we served 10,000 meals in 4 months last year. So whether it's helping get food, helping cook food, helping serve food, or being a volunteer who simply wants to come in and sit down and play a game of chess or checkers with a guest, many of whom have never been welcomed into normal life, that don't know how to communicate and engage, determined to get involved, find a way that makes you feel safe and comfortable, and then do it, and never guess whether or not it had an effect, because it did, and it can change someone's life. Yeah. So do something is the best way.
Yeah. Thank you. Ben will be in coffee hour after this, so please, any questions that you've ever had about homelessness, especially in this area, Ben has answered and experienced it, and he's a wealth of knowledge. So thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you so much.